So we're going to get started. So part of the reason why we even organized this workshop was a collaboration with Pietro Michelucci from the Human Computation Institute through some connections that we made with the NSF Big Data Hubs a couple of years ago. And we did a workshop here in Redmond last October where we noticed that there were a few projects. Franco Pestiri from Indiana University, who's one of the speakers here today, and Pietro, and there was another PI, and we realized there was this theme of crowdsourcing that was emerging from some of our academic collaborations. So then we got together and decided that we should probably, collaborate more with the research that's going on in Microsoft Research in this area. So yeah, we look forward to hearing what you have to say about this.
Well, actually, oops, am I on? Can you hear me okay? Or is it not?
No, it should turn green.
Okay. Screen. Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much, Bonnie. So it's truly a pleasure to be here. I mean, I know a lot of you, and now I get to meet some of you in person and hear more and see more about your work, and it's fascinating. And one of the things that I've noticed, so this whole session is something like crowd, cloud, and the future of labor, and what I've noticed is we're talking a lot about how do we insert humans in the loop and create these human AI partnerships? So what is the nature of the human involvement? And so for me, this was kind of an indulgence, this talk, and I'm hoping you'll join me in this indulgence, and this can be a conversation. But I'd like to sort of shift us out of the space of the sort of technical ways that we can create these combinations and think more about what we actually should be doing and what the implications of that are for the future of labor and society. And I want to acknowledge my colleague Agla Maria Romanowskaite, who actually created most of the slides, thank goodness. So I'm throwing a party tonight. You're all invited. I'm making homemade sangria, but I have a teensy request, which is that my neighbor really needs to get his lawn mowed, and I'm just hoping that maybe, Lucy, there's this one area in the back of his lawn. If you could just mow that area, I'd be happy to roll out the carpet for you tonight and invite you in for some sangria. So is that okay? What do you think? So this model kind of happened in a way, right? So I mean, probably everyone in the room, has used some version of this slide in some talk. But most of the people who participated in ReCAPTCHA didn't realize that they were providing labor. There was a quid pro quo. Like, I want to get into this website, and if I digitize this, I get in. But they were helping to digitize back issues, archival issues of the New York Times, dating back to the 1800s, and that digitized archive exists now. And if you go, has anyone here tried to go and look at those archived issues? No? So I hadn't either until last night when I was thinking about this. And it turns out that you can, but if you're not a subscriber, you have a limited amount of access to it, and not so limited in the scope of what you can look at and how many times you can look at it. But I was one of the people who filled in these ReCAPTCHAs. Shouldn't I be allowed to see all of it? So something's changing. There's something new happening, and so Wikipedia defines the knowledge economy as the use of knowledge to create goods and services. And this is a buzzword, it's used in a lot of ways. But I think what's upon us now is a thinking economy. And that's eking into the space of all the different applications we're talking about today, and in other applications we haven't discussed. And so I would say, if I had to make up a definition, what do I mean by the thinking economy? It's the use of information processing to solve problems. So humans are information processors, machines are information processors, bacteria are information processors. And an economy isn't just about money, right? I mean, when I hear economy, I think money, but it's about supply and demand and exchange of labor and goods, or labor for labor. So there are implications of this shifting to a valuation of information processing. And so yeah, this is a well-known Led Zeppelin quote, and it's kind of tongue-in-cheek because, yes, there are two paths we can take. There are multiple paths we can take. And I would argue that changes are happening around us, and we need to start thinking about these things and deciding now. We can't wait. So has anyone here heard of multiverse theory? Sure, yeah. Well, yeah, Lucy, of course. There are an infinite number of Lucys. That's a wonderful thing. And so there's a version of our universe in this theory that includes every possible outcome. And there's indeed a universe in which I get to spend weekends playing chess with my buddy Bill. Unfortunately, I don't live in that particular universe. But whether you believe in infinite universes or not, there are infinite possibilities for our future, right? And our labor economy, our society, our culture, and human civilization itself is co-evolving with technology. And we have no idea where we're going to be in 20 years. There are lots of opinions, but we really don't know. But the good news is we can influence that, and that's what I'm really interested in thinking about and talking about together. But the only way that we can understand where we are, the only way we can influence that in ways that are meaningful to us is to understand where we are today, where we want to be in the future, and then try to figure out what are the intermediate steps to get there, right? Basic stuff. So where are we today? Well, some of you probably remember the dot-com bubble. I would say we're in the middle of an AI bubble. That would probably provoke some interesting conversations with some people. And AI is great. I love AI. And machine learning is more practical than ever, thanks mostly to Moore's law, but also to some clever innovations. And AI is getting better, but it's not really putting people out of work. What it's doing is it's changing the kind of work that people do. But AI is going to continue to get better, and we need to be ready for that. So what does that mean? What does it mean to be ready? How does shifting to an economy in which human information processing is highly valued, how does that create an opportunity today for us to build a future we want to live in? So we have to decide together what this future will look like, and then figure out step by step how to get there. And we might not figure out all the steps at once. Hey, but what's the next step? What should we be doing now? So yesterday, my weekend chess buddy Bill, in my dreams, brought up something really important in a really clever way. He said, an email tends to not be a random message going to a random person. And this is the context issue, of course, right? And it reminded me of my new uninvited Gmail bot that tries to tell me what I should be saying when I'm typing an email. I get an email, it reads the email I got, and then it tells me what I should say back. This is very unnerving and very uncomfortable, by the way, for me personally. And I have these, and it gets me into these like endless, infinite, horrible loops of, well, that's not exactly the way I would say it, but geez, is that better than the way I would say it? Or that's exactly what I was going to say, which makes me want to do something different. who's this machine to be guessing? Is it studying me? How does it know I would say that? And human communication, social communication, is extremely nuanced. And I might not realize what I'm doing, but I feel like the way I communicate has been effective. And now I feel like it's being changed without my consent. And so this kind of illustrates this idea. Yeah, my colleague found this one. So, context is obviously everything. And when we can see telltale signs of trouble like this, I think we need to call them out and head them off. And AI, quite frankly, sucks at context. I'm just going to say it. And that's why we need humans in the loop. So this is one way that humans add value, I think, in terms of information processing. And maintaining human representation in the broad space of thinking helps ensure that we have a say in what happens next. So by inserting humans in the loop today and being part of these information processing systems that have many automated components, we can remain influential. And there's another aspect to this, which is that the holy grail for generalized AI is to achieve human-like intelligence. We have human-like intelligence. It's called humans. And what we really need to solve today's problems and tomorrow's problems is superhuman intelligence. So, and I believe the only way to achieve that, at least today, is with humans in the loop. And I think it'll be that way for some time. So I want to tell you about some human in the loop approaches and how they're shaping our future. So 3 years ago, my colleagues and I created an online game called Stall Catchers that anyone can play. And by playing Stall Catchers, you help accelerate Alzheimer's disease research. And we ran a team competition. It was a month-long competition to test our new team feature. And so this Lake Hazel Middle School in Boise, Idaho, created a team of 250 students that were extremely competitive, and it was a neck-and-neck competition with the retirement community until literally the very last day of the competition, when the teacher held a pizza party and invited her students in on a Saturday to win, and they did win the competition. So I felt compelled to go out and thank them in person. I gave them the first Citizen Science Trophy, which sits in the case next to the football trophy. And they had an assembly, and I got to speak with them and thank them and recognize their contribution. And I said, you might think I'm here to tell you all to become scientists. I said, I don't care if you become a scientist or not. I just want you to recognize that you used science to solve a problem. It's a tool, and it's a powerful tool, and it's the best tool we have today to solve problems. And you did it. And someday, you're going to tell your grandchildren, who have their AR, their augmented reality, glasses on, and they're doing all kinds of cognitive labor. You're going to say, I was there at the beginning. We started this. Hopefully they don't hate you. In 2014, I organized with some colleagues a workshop at the Wilson Center called the Human Computation Roadmap Summit. Some people here were there. Paul Bennett, who was in the room a minute ago, was there, and Stephen Dow, who's in this picture, was there. And we had, so the purpose of the summit was to say, what are the new capabilities we can create with humans in the loop? And what are the research areas that need to be pursued in order to achieve those human in the loop capabilities? What's the missing research, and what are the applications? So we had breakout groups, and this group was about the future of work. And so Stephen and Marcus Krauss came up with this idea that they called Pathways to Radiology. And the idea is that you do it kind of like as a volunteer in citizen science. You get these radiographs and you help do a diagnosis. You say, oh, I think there might be cancer. There's a big splotch in the middle of this lung. Could be a problem. And then you aggregate it. And then over time, you're measuring expertise, and these people become certified based on the skill that they demonstrate in the system. And once they're certified, maybe they start getting paid for it. And then you take only the most challenging ones, the ones where there's the most disagreement, as in VizWiz. You have the most disagreement among all these sort of public volunteers or paid certified workers. So then you give those to the expert, to the radiologist. You're making the best use of the radiologist's time because the radiologist is only focusing on the ones that require that level of expertise. So something really cool happened. Doesn't happen very often, but something that an idea in a workshop turned into an actual platform. And so Marcus Krauss took this idea a level further, and he wrapped MOOCs into it. So people are studying, and businesses are providing data sets to support these MOOCs. People are doing crowd-based analysis on the data. Their performance is being monitored. They're learning in exchange for this. At the end of it, they have a credential, which is their performance on the data set, which becomes part of the resume that goes to the organization that delivered the data, and they hire them as employees. And they've had several successful examples of this where people now are cognitive laborers because of having gone through this MOOC process. So someone mentioned this earlier. I think HA maybe mentioned in her talk. So, driverless cars. Does everyone know about how Nissan handles the driverless car problem? No? OK, so this is really cool. There's an article in Wired magazine. So the idea is that when a car gets into a tricky situation that it can't handle, it calls a human-powered call center. And then all the car telemetry goes to the call center. And then the person either commandeers the car or sends the right data back so the car knows how to get out of the sticky situation. So people who used to drive cars around now work at the call center solving the problems that the cars can't solve. So this is I think this is a very interesting and example of the shift in how labor happens because of what we're able to do with automation. And it raises these ethical issues. I think that was the part that was in HA's talk, which is kind of the idea that if you're a human driving a car and you get into a sticky situation, you have 1/100th of a second to make all kinds of ethical, moral decisions about do I go through the shop window and I don't know if there are people there, or do I hit this little pedestrian over here? But now we have to actually figure those things out and build them into the systems. So, OK, I see I'm kind of running short on time. So anyway, bottom line is we need to decide together what this future will look like and figure out step by step how to get there. So what's the next step after these systems that we have today? Well, I think it's the work that many of you have already described. In stall catchers, we're also experimenting with these human-in-the-loop with human AI partnerships as part of the citizen science platform. So we, in stall catchers, the basic, it's a simple binary classification task. You have to decide if a blood vessel is flowing or stalled. We draw an outline around it. But who draws the outline? Well, we have an algorithm now that does that, that is based on work done by iWire and then extended by a member of our team. So that's completely automated. Some of our movies are bad. There's an outline, but there's no vessel in it. So we have to find those. Well, we have humans flagging those, but we also are building a machine classifier to find those as well. And of course, the human flagging data is helping to feed into that. But that's not an automated process, and I think that's an important point. We take a data set, and we bring it over here, we put it in the machine learner, and we train it, and then it gives us an output, and it's pretty good, and yeah. But it's not quite good enough, and when it is, we'll eventually hook it into the system. But there's all this manual connecting of things, and I think that's a big problem. I think that's one of the stepping stones. And then the main thing the humans do is classify the vessels. So if the answer were in the pixels, then the machine would be doing it. But machines are only 85% accurate because there's context required. There's knowledge of physics. So I think we're working toward more elaborate systems, more complex systems. We need tools to get there. And ultimately, you could say, when you're at an AI workshop, it's all about how do we build the best AI, or when you're at a DARPA-sponsored thing, it's how do we build the next best thing to give us an advantage over our adversaries? But what if we just pop up above all these levels and say, what do we really want to do here? Well, wouldn't it be interesting if the Earth system becomes a massive super prediction model that basically self-adapts and maintains homeostasis, kind of has an organismic, and I feel like that's one trajectory. And maybe that's not the best thing, but sometimes it helps to have a light in the distance to aim for. So a few stepping stones that I'm just going to put out there: put humans in the right part of the loop, prepare our children for the thinking economy, reinvent equitable reward systems, and importantly, create tools for studying humans in the loop that give us the ability to reuse and extend the work that we've done, to share data sets, to share algorithms, and to work together more fruitfully. So our vision is evolving, and in the end, I have no idea what the future should actually look like, but I think we want to make sure that we keep humans in the driver's seat in the ways that matter most. Thank you.